Chris gave you the red envelope from DOC?
Okay, here's one. Right.
Oh.
Okay. The Committee on Parole is reconvening at State Police Barracks for the next case. The next case is Michael Banford. Mr. Banford.
No, sir, George Crooks.
The next case is.
Okay.
We can bring Bamford in here if y'all need us. He's right outside.
And 1 second, Lieutenant Gordon, would you please mute the mic? We'll have Mr. Banford next. Everyone that's concerning Mr. Crooks's case is on the Zoom, and we will continue with Mr. Crooks. Just give me a chance to pull his case up. Good morning, Mr. Crooks. How are you?
Good, sir. And you?
Good, good. Let me introduce the panel to you, Mr. Crooks. My name is Alvin Roche. To my left is Ms. Bonnie Jackson, and to my right is Ms. Pearl Wise. We will compose your panel this morning. Would you please give us your full name and your Department of Corrections ID?
My name is George Andrew Crooks. My DOC number is 121388.
Thank you, Mr. Crooks. Let me explain the process to you. I will read some information into the record. Once that information is in the record, we'll conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we'll give Lieutenant Burns a chance to make remarks on your behalf. Then we have with us some opposition, Ms. Diana Collier and Mr. Aaron Wesson, and both of those would like to speak. Ms. Collier is the victim's granddaughter, and Mr. Weston is the victim's great-grandson. Speaking on behalf of your early release is Mr. Karen Myers of the Louisiana Parole Project. Ms. Amy Myers, the attorney for the Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Jesse Rodriguez, the grandson-in-law, and Philip Pomlot, a friend. After those individuals speak, before we vote, we'll give you an opportunity to make a statement on your behalf. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Crooks, your DOC number is 121-388. You're currently 62 years old. You're a first felony offender, and your offenses are second-degree murder. You were originally sentenced in 1988 to life. Just recently, Governor John Bell Edwards commuter sentence on October 20th, 2022 to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. Your parole date now is October 20th, 2022. Your adjusted good time date, July 15th, 2036. And your full term date, January 15th, 2086. Is this information correct?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Nice seeing you again, Mr. Crooks.
You too, Mr. Roche.
Good, Mr. Crooks. Have you had completed any programs since your partner here?
No, sir. The last program I did complete was a 12-step program in AA right before my hearing. And even though I've attended AA meetings, we haven't had another class to award a certificate for that. I've just been attending meetings.
And normally my next question to an offender who is requesting early release is, do you have any disciplinary write-ups? And the answer is no, simply because you're still at the state police barracks. If you had one, you wouldn't be.
Yes, sir.
You already know the answer.
Right.
Lieutenant Burns,
Yes, sir.
can you give me an update on his behavior and just overall what he's been doing since his pardon hearing?
Well, since his pardon hearing, he's been the same person I've known for his 21 years that he's been here. And I've been here for a little bit longer than that. So I can say, in fact, I think I'm the one that went and picked him up and brought him to the barracks 21 years ago. I don't know who George was before he came to the barracks, but I can tell you since he's been here, he's been a pleasure to be around. And I don't say that about many people. He's always smiling. He's always got a joke. He's always willing to help. He's one of our leaders. He takes it upon himself if somebody needs a little bit of guidance, Crooks goes and talks to him. He's been our minister, or he was our head minister for 2 years in the chapel here. Every opportunity he has to be involved and help people other than himself, he's there. We don't even have to ask him. So it's been a pleasure in these 21 years.
Thank you, Lieutenant Burns.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brooks, this is going to be an abbreviated hearing. You've already been vetted by the pardon board, and the 5 members of the pardon board saw fit to make a recommendation to Governor John Bell Edwards. You've been vetted by his office, and he saw fit to commute your sentence. And at this point, we're going to hear from the victims, and then we're going to hear from your supporters. Ms. Jackson, do you have any questions?
No.
Ms. Wise, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir, I do. I am not on the point board, so I didn't get a chance to get acquainted with you, Mr. Crooks.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just heard what Lieutenant Burns said about you, and I just want to state on the record that there is law enforcement opposition to your early release, the judge, the DAs, and all that.
Yes,
And your victim was 70 years old at the time.
yes,
And
ma'am.
when you was 62 today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And call out for the record how long you served on this sentence.
36 years.
36 years.
Well over 36 years. Yes, ma'am.
And it's good to hear what you've been doing for other people. What would you say to the victim's family talking to us?
Oh, I would just like to say to y'all, express how remorseful and sorry I am for taking Miss Albritton's life is something it shouldn't have happened. It was a horrible crime. I just pray that God heal their heart and their wounds from the way he did me. I pray for them daily and hope that one day they can come to the place in their life where they can heal from that. Thank you.
That was very gracious of you. That's all I had, Chair.
I have to say this for the record, Mr. Crooks. You've been at the State Police Barracks since January 14th, 2002. 21 years. And that's an amazing record in itself because there's a zero tolerance for any shenanigans. Now, I'm not going to say write up or discipline. Anything that's out of line is not acceptable at the State Police Barracks, and you have lived there, housed there for 21 years. That's an amazing thing. At this time, we're going to, first of all, let's hear from the victims first. Ms. Diana Collier, the victim's granddaughter. Ms. Collier?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Collier. You have 3 minutes to make your statement.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Faye Babies, as we like to call her, lucky number 13 grandchild. She was killed on my 21st birthday, January 15th, 1987. I don't have a long drawn out statement this morning, but there are so many things about this process our family just does not understand. We never have, especially our aging elderly parents who were Faye's kids. So I'd like to ask everyone listening this morning, what if this was your vibrant, spunky, beautiful grandmother that was so viciously taken from you so many years ago? And what if you were assured by the legal system that the plea bargain Mr. Crooks agreed to all those years ago, life without parole, meant just that? And what if you were assured that Mr. Crooks would be sent to a state prison as soon as space became available? And what if several months later you open up your local newspaper, the Monroe Morning World, to find a picture of him there smiling, being named a trustee just mere months after this incident and in charge of the kitchen? And what if you find out years later at the first parole hearing that Mr. Crooks has held that trustee status all these years and now works at the governor's mansion? And what if years later you find yourself sitting in your kitchen with your aging 80-year-old mother at a clemency hearing, or I guess that was a clemency hearing a few months ago, via Zoom, because they don't understand any of this process, only basically to hear from the board that this is just the way the system works. And Mr. Crooks' sentence is then commuted to 99 years. And what if you were Faye Babies, family, sitting here today watching this in disbelief of what we earnestly believe is about to happen? We respectfully ask that Mr. Crooks' pardon be denied and that he serves these 99 years his sentence has been commuted to. We are believers. Our family loves the Lord. We are thankful for Mr. Crooks' decision to follow the Lord, but it doesn't change the circumstance, and it doesn't change what happened all those years ago and what was agreed to. I want to leave you with this, Romans 5:3-5. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Thank you for listening this morning.
Ms. Collier, thank you for participating in this process. I know it took courage, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna hear from Mr. Weston, the victim's great grandson. Mr. Weston?
Hi, good morning, members of the board. I hope you're doing well. Today, like you just said, my name is Aaron Weston. I'm the great-grandson of Faye Albritton. And I first want to address something that I know maybe one or perhaps all of you may be thinking, which is why should you give any weight or credence to what I share with you today, considering the fact that I'm part of a generation that wasn't even able to get to know Mama Faye before her murder. And I want to address that in just a moment. But before I do, I actually want to commend this board for the work that it's doing. I understand that this board has been given a mandate to unwind and rectify an era of mass incarceration that has not only plagued our country, but plagued Louisiana especially. The fact that this board is reconsidering sentences that the underlying causes of the inmate's criminality was poverty or addiction, mental health, the race of the defendant, all of those factors, and maybe a combination of those. The fact that this board is unwinding that era of injustice is something that I and my family applaud. It's important work, and we support you as you do that. However, I and my family ask that as you weigh the factors that will bring you to a decision about Mr. Crooks's release, that in trying to rectify past injustices, that you do not also inadvertently create new ones. I want to tell you just a bit about who Mama Faye was. I, of course, like I said before, wasn't able to know her, but I was able to speak with a number of her children and grandchildren who did know her very well. And the things that I kept getting from them was that she was gracious, she was outgoing, she was strong-willed, she was a pillar of her community, she was a business owner in an era where, as you all know very well, no matter how intelligent or gritty or persistent a woman may have been, that she wasn't, or she was rarely allowed to display those qualities in the marketplace, but she did so anyway. And anytime someone's taken from their family in the brutal way that she was, it's a tragedy, but all of the ways that she contributed to the lives of her family, friends, and community makes it extra tragic. You know, something that Mr. Crooks has spoken to, and something that I know that this board hears really often from inmates, is something to the effect of that Mr. Crooks is not the same person that he was whenever he committed this crime, that he's not the same 26-year-old who kicked, stomped, bludgeoned a 70-year-old woman to death, that he's not that same person. And that may very well be true. But in saying that, I hope this board doesn't forget that Mama Faye's family, her 4 surviving children, her 15 surviving grandchildren, her 26 surviving great-grandchildren, we're not the same that we were from the time that this crime occurred. There has been a lasting sorrow, pain, and hardship that this crime has caused. And that pain is still felt. It's not over for our family. Almost finished your board, but just one more thing I do want to share with you is I was able to speak with a few of Mama Faye's children. I was able to speak with my grandmother, Fern McKiffin, who, if you were to create an award for the world's best human, she might be in the running. She would definitely get my vote. She's the strongest, most incredible woman I've ever known. And there's not much that causes Grammy to feel as though that she can't take on a challenge and persist. But whenever I spoke with her about this, the one thing that she said, the reason that I'm here largely is because she can't do it. It's too much for her. I also spoke with Memafe's oldest son, who was the one that had to identify his mother's body by looking at her face and her head that had been so badly traumatized that it led to her death. And whenever I asked him whether or not there was something that he wanted me to make sure that I included in what I was saying today, he said no, that he didn't. But right before we got off the phone, he said, Aaron, I cannot tell you the amount of trauma that George Crooks has brought on our family. And I don't think that there's a more succinct or well put way of saying it. Lastly, this board, again, is doing great work reconsidering sentences that are perhaps nonviolent in nature, drug-related offenses, unwinding a despicable era of racial discrimination that led to heavy-handed sentences based on the color of a person's skin. That's all to be applauded. But what I asked this board to do is to consider the fact that what you would be saying to our society by not allowing Mr. Crooks's release is that if you stomp a 70-year-old woman to death, that you're going to prison and you're not ever getting out. We're not angry with Mr. Crooks. We largely have forgiven him, but we ask that he stays where he belongs, which is in prison for the rest of his life. Thank you.
Aaron, thank you for your courage. Your grandmother is looking down and she's very proud of you. Now let's have Mr. Karen Myers of the Louisiana Parole Project. Okay. Oh, Andrew. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Andrew Hundley with Louisiana Parole Project, speaking before the board today to confirm that George Crooks is a client of our program. If George is released, his reentry plan would have him not to return to the area where his crime was committed, but to reintegrate in the Baton Rouge community at Redemption Homes, where we are offering long-term reentry support. If George is granted release, we will work with him as we do all of our clients to ensure that he has a successful reintegration, that he has training in, among many things, technological skills, financial management, social norms, that he receives services such as job placement assistance, transportation, and ensuring that all of his needs are met immediately upon release. And we commit to providing George with reentry support for a minimum of 1 year. Obviously, Louisiana Parole Project has agreed to have George join our program based on his institutional record, and that's considering his outstanding work record and his outstanding disciplinary record and all the programming that he has been involved with during his incarceration to rehabilitate himself. Being frank, we also recognize that George has been a leader, as Lieutenant Burns stated. He has been a leader in his inside community through service and acts of leadership, acts of kindness during his incarceration that are well documented. I would say 1 in 30, 1 in 40 people who are released to our program sort of have that skill set where they are a leader for others. And George has been a leader during his incarceration. And we anticipate that if he is released, that he would continue to be a leader and be a mentor for others. And for that reason, also Parole Project would look forward to having George in our program where he can be a leader to others. Finally, on a personal note, I must mention that I first met George in 1999, whenever I was a teenager at David Wade Correctional Center. Like many of us who went there as teens that found George there, George was a role model to us. The person you see, and I say this for everyone, George didn't turn a corner in the last few years. Years ago, the things that I remember about George was that he's always spoken about the remorse that he has for what brought him to prison, something that many people do not do in a prison environment. And he's always encouraged people to live their lives, even when they're incarcerated, to maintain character and live the best possible life that they can while they're in prison. So because of that history that I saw at 1999, playing basketball with George, you learn a person's true character. On a basketball court in prison, they will show you exactly who they are. And the person that you see before you today is the person that I met in 1999, not a charlatan, but someone who is truly who they present themselves as. Just wanted to make the board clear that we will provide long-term reentry support to George. That includes housing, transportation, job assistance, and case management if he is released, and his reentry plan has him remaining in the Baton Rouge area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huntley. Now we're going to hear from the grandson-in-law, Jesse.
Yes, sir. Good morning to y'all. I met Mr. Crooks a couple of years ago through my wife and her sister and my sister-in-law. In the very, very short time that I've known Mr. Crooks, he has been nothing but a blessing in my life, my family's life, my son's life. I have very strong thoughts as far as the crimes that have been committed. I've lost a good friend not that long ago. He was murdered. So with that being said, I'd like to give my condolences to the family who has lost what I had already figured was a wonderful, wonderful person. With that being said, whenever we would go through tough financial times, my wife and I, she was pregnant. I had broken my ankle. Mr. Crooks, of all people, would come and help out by sending us the money that we needed to help pay our rent, to help feed our kids when we couldn't. And he's always been giving me this guidance that I felt I have never gotten. I'm hearing doing parole hearings is nothing new. My family, my brother, my father, they've both been in the prison system. So parole hearings are nothing new to me, but this one in particular, I'd like to say that it's tough, given the circumstances of the crime that was committed, as well as the person who I'm speaking for. But he's a good person. He's wonderful. He's thoughtful, and I truly believe that he's remorseful, he's regretful, and I believe he's paid. I think all he wants to do for the rest of his life while he has it, he just wants to be with his family, his grandsons, my wife, myself, and we would love to help him as much as he's helped us. And thank you.
Thank you so much. We're gonna hear from one of his friends. Well,
That's Pete.
would you state your name for the record?
Pastor Philip Himlott. I thank you for giving me the opportunity today to speak on behalf of George. Obviously, all I can testify is of who I know now, and I've known George now for almost 8 years, being able to go into the state barracks monthly as a minister. And I always remember the very first time I met George, his face, his smile, his character literally lit up the room and everyone around him. And that's been my testimony. Even in the situation he's in, he's just always maintained such a great attitude and such a great spirit inside of him. And it's an honor today for me to be able to speak on his behalf. I'm actually on vacation, and it could have been so easily for me to say, no, we're taking time away. But I said, no, wherever I'm at, George, I'm going to speak on your behalf. And so here I am today. And, you know, being a pastor, I have the opportunity to see people in many different areas of their life. And unfortunately, in some cases, people can use Christianity and salvation as a crutch. It's something that, you know, people hear this all the time at the jailhouse salvation, where you just get saved and you read your Bible because that's what you need to do. In knowing George now for the years that I have, I can testify that by no means is it a crutch. It's a reality to him. It's not just something he's trying to do because he thinks this could be a get out of jail free card, so to speak. It's definitely something that he's done. And the reason why it's been so important to him is I believe it's been the way that he can deal with the remorse and the pain for the crime that he has committed, obviously a horrific crime. And he's experienced that forgiveness of Christ in his life. And that's what's been able to help him to maintain his life and to move on. And we're excited about the opportunity to be able to help him in the next stage of his life, if he's permitted to be paroled. As a pastor, we want to, George has already asked if he could be a member of our church, to which we have said absolutely. We want to help him. We've got an extensive recovery program at our church that meets every Friday. We've just got a very great church that's very hands-on with small groups and opportunities, men's ministries, so many great opportunities that we know George will be able to use his testimony and his experience to help other young men and women, because that's what he wants to do. He's not ashamed of his testimony. He's ashamed of what he did, but now he wants to use the change and what God's done in his life to hopefully help others to make a difference in their lives too. So again, we're making a commitment, just like we heard Andrew said, as a church, we want to make a commitment to him to help him get climatized into society, to be a part of a thriving church and a family that he needs. And so we can help him grow and develop. And just as I close again, I would love to just send my thoughts and prayers to the family. As a pastor, as I've mentioned, I know the pain that there is from both sides. And please don't feel that we're minimizing your pain and your suffering in any way. I cannot even begin to imagine what you have gone through. And we're just praying that God would just continue to give you the help and the forgiveness and the strength that you need in your life. So again, thank you so much for giving me the privilege. George is a remarkable man. He really is. He's a great man. And like Jesse said, I've never met Jesse, but that's just a testimony to George. George has helped and is helping so many people, even in a position where he's at. So again, thank you for giving me the honor to be able to speak on behalf of him today, as not only his pastor, but also as a friend. So thank you very much.
Pastor Pinlock. Now, would Amy Myers introduce herself as the attorney representing Mr. Crooks?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Roche. Good morning, Honourable Pardon Board members. My name is Amy Myers and I'm with the Parole Project. I join Mr. Crooks in expressing my sincere sympathy and sorrow to Miss Faye Albritron's family as well. Their grief and anguish are a terrible burden for them to carry that they never deserve to feel. Their suffering is something that Mr. Crooks will reflect on for the rest of his life, either from prison or outside in society. Mr. Crooks' journey from an unpredictable alcoholic who committed this senseless crime to a trustworthy and beloved leader of the Church of God at Louisiana State Barracks is a journey of salvation and genuine rehabilitation. Mr. Crooks reclaimed his true character through incredible perseverance and work that he did on himself through his faith over 36 years. As we heard from Pastor Pimlott, he has an excellent reentry plan that includes addressing these long-running alcoholic tendencies, and he will be part of the Celebrate Recovery program there to make sure that he remains constant in his sobriety. Mr. Crooks' efforts over the years have been commended by numerous officials, and I won't waste the board's time by going back over those. But most significantly, our governor has trusted Mr. Crooks in his own house, around his own family. Mr. Crooks embodies the characteristics of a truly reformed man, and his commitment to programming, leadership, and his stellar institutional record are genuine indications of rehabilitation. He'll be with Parole Project long-term, as Andrew said, and he has other family members besides Jesse who love him and will support him if he's released. In light of all these reasons, we would ask that you please grant him parole today.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Mr. Crooks,
Yes, sir.
you'd like to make a closing statement before the panel votes?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the board for having me today. Very troubling and moving hearing what Miss Albritton's family said. I still pray for them and hope God can heal their wound from that and they can move on for it. But I thank you for your time today. I thank everybody that spoke for me. Once again, I'm very sorry to the family. If I could change it, I would. But I appreciate y'all hearing me today. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Crooks. Is the panel ready to vote?
I recommend executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case.
There's a motion on the floor to go into executive session to discuss confidential matters. Would you call the roll?
I second it. Shea,
Yes.
Bonnie Jackson, and Parole.
Yes.
We will be a few minutes and then we will be back to give our vote.
What do you think they're talking about? I'm actually really confused about this. I thought this was a shoo-in, like guaranteed. Remember, he had the clemency hearing, then the governor signed off on it on October 20th, and now this is the parole hearing. But what are they? I really don't get it. I don't think there's a chance they're going to. It has happened a few times where they did deny a prisoner, but I don't think it's going to happen in this case. We've never seen it, one where they've denied it, though. We've never seen it here. Well, yeah, a lot of really well-spoken people, victims, really. I thought what Diana said was really moving. She said, imagine if, and then she just went down the line, each thing. you know, the idea that he went straight to the police barracks. Wow. And then just stayed there. Hasn't done anything wrong. But I'm trying to find information on this case. I cannot find anything. I can't find anything. But apparently, when he was 26 years old, he bludgeoned a 70-year-old grandma to death. Because why not? Because he was on alcohol. Like, really does take a sick man. There's just no reason for it. You're never in danger. It's like, what's your excuse? We don't have any details. We don't know anything about this, but just some people. And then it was interesting what Aaron Wesson said, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure he's an attorney. Sounded like an attorney. I did Google him. I was curious, and if it's him, he also looks like, or if it's someone who just looks like him with the same name, he is an attorney. And it's interesting what he said, because he's going on how he understands what the parole board's doing. He understands the act that is meant to solve wrongs, but then he goes to say that, but in this case, it's different. And I guess what he means by that is that, you know, this law was put in place for people who were given habitual sentences for purse snatching, right? Where race played a role in it, where sentences were overdue, and he feels in this case where it was first degree brutal murder of a 7-year-old grandmother, that he should not be let out. And I guess that really makes the law. The law is that, you know, it was written in a way where it's just open for interpretation. It's open for what if the board agrees or not really the and I'm really surprised that they're, you know, what are they looking at as a confidential what information do they have that could possibly change the outcome of this hearing? I can't imagine what the priest said. What did he say? He's what were the words he used? A truly amazing man? Or it's like, I don't, like, what makes you, how can you say that? Like, he bludgeoned his 7-year-old grandma, and then he's behaved without making any mistakes, and working in a police station, and then for the governor. I mean, what makes him truly amazing? I just don't, like, why would you say something like that? Imagine writing that in your speech about a grandma murderer. Let me think. I'm gonna get up in front of the parole board, and I'm his preacher, and let me call him a brilliant man, a truly amazing person. What were the exact words? I don't know, but I think you get my drift. I'm just like, no. Say he's give examples about, I don't even know. It would be like, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. It's like, well, he you know, probably bring up like type of like the legal. If I was his defense attorney, it would probably be on the sense of, you know, there are 3 reasons that you take away that you lock someone up. It's to protect the public, to punish. Well, they're coming back.
We're back. The committee on parole is going to read convened at 9:58. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Ms. Pearl Wise?
Mr. Crooks, it's been a difficult case. It's been a difficult time. Last year sometime, I went to a conference, the criminal justice conference, and they said that individuals who have done a great harm, and we all agree, you've done a great,
Yes, ma'am.
you healed yourself, and now you've been helping people.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all a system can ask. And you've done that. And we've heard testimony today. You've done that since you first got in prison.
Yes.
First woke up, after the drug pump you was in, after you woke up, you immediately, I don't want to say it was repentance, but you did turn on your ways. You had one write-up in 36 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And you prisons and different institutions, that speaks volumes of, for me, for public safety.
Right.
Because it's your habit now to not do, to help people. And so for that, my vote is to grant conditionally upon you being placed in the Louisiana Parole Project, and you cooperate with them and stay there as long as it's feasible. I want you to undergo a substance abuse evaluation. They're going to do it anyway. Substance abuse evaluation when you get to the Louisiana Parole Project and follow those conditions. And I want some community service. About 6 months after you release, start doing about 10 hours a month community service. And now, when I said 10 hours a month, that includes your preparation time. You're gonna do a talk, whatever time you spend to prepare, that's part of it. Have no contact with the Albritton family. I like to plan to be somewhere else, but know that it's your responsibility. If you run into any of them and you're in store and about to check out, you leave your buggy and go. You let them, you stay away from them if you happen to. And to Faye Albritton's family, I appreciate the courage that it took for you all to be here. And I was glad to hear that you're forgiven. And that means that you're a law-abiding citizen, so you're gonna respect the laws. Best wishes to everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mrs. Jackson?
All right, first to Ms. Collier and Mr. Weston. This was a very difficult case for me. The facts of the case itself, very, very horrific, really, very horrific. And listening to both of you describe Ms. Albritton and to articulate your pain and your anguish and your loss was very impactful. And I thank you very much for sharing that. I can't say that I know how you feel, because I don't, I'm not in your shoes. But your love for Mrs. Albritton is obvious, and your pain is obvious. I also am a personal faith. And me, one of the greatest miracles of Christianity, one of the greatest miracles of faith, is that God redeems the unredeemed. That without redemption, without forgiveness, Saul would never have become the Apostle Paul. He never would have been able to write the gospel or the letters that he wrote. He would not have been able to transform the world with his work. And it struck me that, Saul killed other Christians. He killed Christians. And yet the apostles accepted him into their circle. And they sent him out into the world to save others. And so I do understand faith. I do understand the things that you have expressed. But if we don't allow the miracle of redemption to flourish, then we thwart the work that God has in place. My responsibility is to look at all of the circumstances, and certainly the crime itself is a circumstance, and your response to this crime is a circumstance. But I also have to look at the person before me today. I have to look at the fact that he has been incarcerated for 36 years. He's only had one disciplinary write-up, but those things are just minor in my sight. What's important is the man that he has become and what he has done, not only in his own life, but how he has impacted the life of others. What Mr. Hunley didn't tell you is that when he was in prison for 17, he was for killing someone. He was killing someone. An innocent woman trying to get into a car, he killed someone. And yet, through the efforts of people like Mr. Crook, he has become an outstanding individual. And he has dedicated his life to improving the lives of others. And so, while this will not be a happy day for you all, in my estimation, Mr. Crooks has done all that he could possibly do to demonstrate true redemption. And so my vote today would be likewise to grant his early release with the same conditions as Mrs. White.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. First of all, I would like to echo all the statements made by Mrs. Wise and Mrs. Jackson. Redemption is truly a gift of God. And I think we see it in Mr. Crooks. So therefore, agreeing with everything that my colleagues have said, my vote also is to grant early release under the following conditions. First of all, we'll have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. You will have to have a substance abuse evaluation and follow all recommendations of that evaluation. 10 hours of community service. Get with Mr. Huntley, get with your pastor, get with your parole officer, and they can help you to arrange, talk to different groups. Tell them your story.
Yes, sir.
Lead young people in the right direction.
Yes, sir.
You have a story to tell. Tell it.
Yes,
And
sir.
hope that you can help the youth today. And the last one is a strict condition. Please have no contact with the victim's family.
Yes, sir.
Whatever space they're in is their space, and you should not be in that space.
Yes, sir.
I don't care what is going on. You could be in Walmart checking out with a basket of groceries. If you recognize a member of the family or they recognize you, you ought to leave that space immediately.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Crooks, you have received 3 votes to grant your early release. Your request for early release has been granted. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
Yes, sir. Y'all too.
I don't know what they were talking about in the room, and that was just really interesting. That was kind of a Miss Jackson citing the Bible. I mean, do they know? Did they mention the? I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Then bringing up Andrew Hunley, yeah, if you know Andrew Hunley, he did kill someone when he was sentenced to life without parole at the age of 15, and he was one of the first of the 200 people who got a release when the new bill passed, and he had a pretty heinous crime. If I'm reading this correctly, in his crime, July 23rd, 1997, they found a partially burned body of a 14-year-old. So he had knocked a 15-year-old girl over the head with a piece of metal and then burned her to try to get rid of fingerprints. Andrew Hunley, huh? I mean, it takes it to a whole new level. Talk about forgiveness. I would need to look at more of this case and make sure this is right, Andrew Hunley. That's a different level of the crime. Sorry to leave you guys hanging like that. I'll put the link though in the description. Well, if you yourself have done that, talk about throwing, that's when you can work for the Parole Project, maybe look at these other crimes and say, hey, that's not so bad. When I was 15, I killed a 14-year-old girl in Berkshire. You only stomped on a grandma's head until she died. Yeah, let's let you out. Plus, hey, it's paying my salary. I'm getting all this grants, so what the hell, why not? But I mean, that's me being sarcastic. I don't know what the right thing is here. I really don't. Also the difference is that Steve Hunley was 15. This man was 26 when he did this crime. 26-year-old man to look at a 70-year-old grandmother and to stomp her head in, where it's still to today they're saying how disturbing it was. You're 26. Don't compare him to a 15-year-old boy. I don't know. Frankly, I think he probably could have served more time just for the punishment aspect of it. I don't know. Maybe he will go and do something great with his life. Maybe he'll join the Parole Project. They can always use another one there. I don't know. Am I wrong? I don't know why I'm getting so worked up by this one, but let me know your comments.